Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word, and yes, it is that time of year again, time for me to do my 2021 driver lineup predictions. This should be interesting, but let's start with the teams that have already officially confirmed their drivers for next year. So Ferrari confirmed Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz much earlier this year, with the Spaniard of course coming in to replace the outgoing Sebastian Vettel. Aston Martin announced just a couple of weeks ago now that they have signed Sebastian Vettel for 2021, and this will come as no great surprise, but Lance Stroll will be staying on as the German's teammate. McLaren, around the same time as Ferrari, in fact I think the same day if I recall correctly, confirmed Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo would drive for the team in 2021, the Aussie of course moving from Renault to join the Woking team. And Renault won't exist as a team next year in Formula 1 as they become Alpine, and they have already signed up Fernando Alonso to partner Esteban Ocon, and I've got to say, along with that Aston Martin lineup, I think this could be one of the most fascinating driver pairings on the grid. It's going to be great to see how that dynamic works out between Alonso and Ocon and Vettel and Stroll. And last, but by no means least, Williams have already confirmed that both George Russell and Nicholas Latifi will be staying with the team for next year. That then leaves Mercedes, Red Bull, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Haas with seats open for 2021, and there are a total of 8 seats between them that haven't been confirmed, and a lot of drivers who could potentially fill them. Let's start with Mercedes though, and they've already got Valtteri Bottas signed up on another one-year deal, but Lewis Hamilton has yet to sign a new contract with the team. Now, never say never in F1, things can change very quickly, but Hamilton has made it clear that he wants to stay at Mercedes and the team are adamant they want him to stay on as well. And I would be very, very surprised if that deal doesn't get signed soon. I just can't see where else there is for the Brit to go, and let's be honest, why would he want to leave Mercedes? They will likely be the team to beat again next year, and assuming he does wrap this year's title up, he has a great chance of going for the record-breaking 8th championship in 2021. I just can't see him leaving. So in all honesty, I don't really see any point in wasting your time by speculating on this one. It's Hamilton and Bottas at Mercedes again next year for me, so let's move on. Now, Alfred Mayo was, a couple of weeks back, a team I was dreading making a prediction for. I genuinely believe that Kimi Raikkonen was set to retire, and I wasn't really sure who would come in to take either of those seats. However, as is often the case, things have moved on very quickly, and it's now looking increasingly likely that Kimi Raikkonen will be staying on for at least one more year, and yes, I do believe the rumours of a new deal perhaps being done. So I'm going to say that Raikkonen stays, and honestly that was not my stance a few weeks back. As for his teammate, again, things have moved on very quickly, and so I'm going to have to go with Mick Schumacher. It is widely reported, as covered earlier this week, that he has been promised a promotion to Formula 1 if he can finish in the top 3 in F2 this year, and he is currently top of the standings and has a good gap back to 4th place. So I think this is now looking pretty much nailed on. If you add to that as well his FP1 outing at the Nürburgring next week with Alfa, it's all looking very, very good for the German. And this is actually kind of why I think Kimi will stay as well. 2022 is a big year for F1 and represents a real opportunity for Alfa to make progress up the grid. The Finn's experience would be massively beneficial for the team, and I'm not just talking about his knowledge on track, but his knowledge of that team. And all of that helps to balance out Schumacher's lack of experience. It just seems to work. And I will say as well, it's going to be great to see a Schumacher taking on a Raikkonen again. I can't wait for that. But anyway, I know some will ask this question if I think Mick is ready for Formula 1, and 12 months ago, that would have been a very easy no for me. He seemed to lack a lot of consistency and looked a long way off where he needed to be if he wanted to race in F1. But this year he seems to have come on leaps and bounds. He was a little bit all over the place at the very start of the season. He had some very bad luck as well, of course. But he definitely seems to be on a roll now. So yes, I think he's ready. And you know, a couple of years cutting his teeth at Alfa would do him the world of good. Raikkonen and Schumacher then, at Alfa for me. But I will say, if Kimi suddenly decides he's had enough and he's off, my wildcard pick for that seat is Nico Hulkenberg. He too is very experienced. Not as experienced as Kimi, but who is? And I think he would be a good teammate for Schumacher to learn from going forward. But I do expect Kimi to stay. Down at Haas, this won't come as too much of a surprise if you saw my video the other week, but Sergio Perez will be one of their drivers. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. And what a signing that would be as well. I'll throw my typical Checo lines in at this point, but the Mexican is quick, offers a lot of experience, is massively consistent, and if the opportunity arises from a crazy race or whatever, he is more than capable of pulling a big result out of the hat. And that is all something that Haas really needs. He also brings a nice bit of cash with him. And again, with those regulation changes on the horizon, that can surely only be a good thing for the team. And just from Perez's point of view, or at least looking at it from his point of view, I do think going to Haas is worth it. I know a lot of you will say, and I agree, that right now Haas would be a big step back, but I think it's worth making the move in anticipation of 2022. Sure, he may well have to endure a very tough and frustrating 2021, but Haas could make the leap up to the top of the midfield when these regulations change, and that's pretty much where Checo has been for most of his career. And so, to me, there's almost nothing to lose there. If they do take a huge step forward, then it was a very smart move. But if they don't, and 2022 ends up being a nightmare, then he can move on. Don't forget, seats will be opening up elsewhere by that point. So give it a go, see what happens in 2022, and if you're not happy, move on at the end of it. And if the choice is really between Haas and Alfa Romeo, I'd much rather go and give Haas that chance, because I think they're more likely to make a leap forward than Alfa Romeo. That's just a gut feeling. I don't know that for sure, of course, because we're nowhere near 2022 yet. When it comes to who partners him, though, I was really struggling with this one. But in the end, I've gone with Callum Ilott. He has had a really good season in Formula 2 and is still very much in the championship fight. And quite frankly, if Schumacher is considered good enough for a promotion to Formula 1 based on this year, I really do think Ilott is too. I also look at what Gunther Steiner has said a lot lately. He's very much saying that the team wants to look to the mid to long term going forward with their drivers, and Ilott definitely gives them that. And with a driver like Perez to work with and learn from, it could see the Brit set up very, very nicely. I just feel, like I said with the Alfa Romeo lineup, that Perez and Ilott strikes a nice balance for Haas. I think, not for the first time in this video and not for the last either, you can throw Hulkenberg in there too, but that's only if Steiner decides to go with full-on experience in anticipation of 2022, but that would go against the long-term narrative he is pushing. Sure, Checo is 30 and so isn't really that either, but Ilott absolutely is. On to AlphaTauri, and I've got to be honest, this is really tough. I mean, Pierre Gasly will stay, no doubt about that at all, because, well, why wouldn't you keep him? He's been fantastic this season and has really turned his career around. So assuming Helmut Marko doesn't want to swap him and Albon around again, keeping the Frenchman at AlphaTauri is absolutely a no-brainer for me. But I've actually gone with Yuki Tsunoda as his teammate for next year and not Daniel Kvyat. I think you all know this by now, but I really like Kvyat and would love to see him stay on. The thing is though, and I've felt this ever since his surprise return in 2019, he is probably only there to fill that seat until the next Red Bull Junior is ready for promotion. And Tsunoda, for me at least, has been one of the biggest surprises in Formula 2 this year. He's won a couple of races, has shown some great speed, and although he's not perhaps as consistent as he could be, that speed, as well as his aggression, might well be enough for Marko to give him a go. Now, it has to be said at this point that he hasn't currently got enough points for a super licence, but a finish of 5th or higher in the championship would be enough to get that sorted, and he's currently 3rd. Obviously though, this could easily all change because you just never know what Helmut Marko will do. He could yet swap Gasly and Albon around, in which case it will be Albon and Tsunoda at AlphaTauri in my view. However, if Red Bull decides to go with a driver outside of the programme, let's say, for argument's sake, Nico Hulkenberg, then I think Tsunoda will stay in F2 and AlphaTauri will line up with Gasly and Albon for 2021. And by the way, if Tsunoda doesn't get the required super licence points, and Red Bull don't go with the Nico Hulkenberg and thus drop Albon down to partner Gasly at AlphaTauri, I would fully expect Kvyat to stay on for one more year, but my prediction is Gasly and Tsunoda. That just leaves Red Bull then, and by the process of elimination, you probably already know where I'm going with this one. We already know that Max Verstappen is signed up for next year and beyond, so that's the easy part done. And in all honesty, I don't think Alex Albon will be dropped. I mean, for starters, there are a real lack of options out there for the team, and as intriguing as a Verstappen, Perez or a Verstappen Hulkenberg lineup would be, I just don't ever see that happening. There is the rumour that Lewis Hamilton might make the switch, but I think somebody was drinking when they came up with that one. Basically, Max said you never know and Toto Wolff said never say never, so as is the case with silly season, if you put 2 and 2 together, you can easily come up with 5. It'd be incredible, but it's not going to happen. Also, as covered in my video a couple of weeks back, I just don't think Gasly and Albon will be switched again. Sure, Gasly has had a mega season, don't forget that, but I just don't believe he would be that much of a step up, if a step up at all. Okay, he might do slightly better, but I don't see Pierre getting in that Red Bull and ending up right behind Max Verstappen every race. I just don't, and yeah, that's mainly because that car and team is built around Verstappen, and so whoever sits in the second car will struggle, but if that's the case, there's no point swapping them. Red Bull, as is becoming a bit of a cliche now, also need to start backing a second driver. They can't keep chopping and changing, hoping something works. It's time they put their arm around someone, like Albon in this case, and gave him their confidence, support, and tried to help him turn things around. For example, get on top of the car issues he's been having. And you know, maybe I am starting to lose some of this belief, but there is still a big part of me that feels Albon still looks more likely to turn it around than Gasly ever did in that Red Bull. I don't know why, it's just something I've always felt when comparing the two of them. Plus, is there really a rush for Red Bull? 2021 is all about transition, And as Helmut Marko keeps pointing out, it doesn't matter who they have in that second car, the team would still be second in the Constructors. So give Albon a second full season. If they're not happy with him at the end of that season, then look at making a change. And don't forget, come the end of 2021, there could be more drivers available on the market. I'll say it just to kind of summarise, even though it's pretty obvious by this point. I am going with Max Verstappen, obviously, and Alex Albon at Red Bull for 2021. There you go then. They are my 2021 driver lineup predictions, but what do you guys think? Down in the comments section, you can let me know your thoughts on my predictions. Be nice, it is just a bit of fun after all. And also how you think all the teams will line up next year. Now, I will be back soon with more content as always, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.